Breaking. $2.2 billion. Let that massive, staggering number echo in your head for a second. 2.2 billion. That is the exact figure of the WNBA's shiny new media rights deal. If you close your eyes, you can practically hear the clinking of crystal champagne flutes in those sterile, climate-controlled boardrooms high above Manhattan. You can see the network executives sinking into their plush leather chairs, loosening their silk ties, grinning like they just pulled off the heist of the century. And you know what? They did. Because they are openly, aggressively, and shamelessly stealing the credit. Right in front of our eyes. They are taking the unprecedented financial empire built on the back of one single 22-year-old kid from Iowa. And they are slapping a giant group project sticker right over her name. I watched the broadcast yesterday. The studio lights were blinding. The anchor leaned over the glossy desk, looked into the teleprompter, and actually had the audacity to say, "This new TV deal is a testament to the rising tide of this historic rookie class." A rising tide? Are you kidding me? Let's stop the tape right there. Let's pull back the curtain on this massive media cover-up operation. Because what the mainstream sports networks are doing right now isn't just disrespectful. It is a calculated, coordinated erasure of the Caitlin Clark effect. It is financial gaslighting on a national scale. They are desperate to convince you that this massive explosion of wealth and attention is some organic, league-wide awakening. They want you to believe that America suddenly woke up in 2024 and collectively decided, out of nowhere, to start caring about women's professional basketball. Delusional. Utterly delusional. Let's rewind the clock. Not a decade ago. Just to the summer of 2023. I remember walking into those arenas. Heavy, dead silence in the air. You could hear the squeak of the rubber sneakers on the hardwood all the way from the upper deck. You could hear the coaches calling out plays because there was no crowd noise to drown them out. Whole sections of the stands were draped in giant black tarps because they couldn't even sell the lower bowl tickets for $10. The league was bleeding cash. They were flying commercial, squeezing into middle seats next to angry businessmen, fighting for scraps of airtime on obscure cable channels at 2 in the morning. That was the reality. That was the physical, undeniable reality of the WNBA before she arrived. And then, boom, draft night. The moment she held up that Indiana Fever jersey, the tectonic plates of the sports world violently shifted. The temperature in the room changed. But the media elites, the talking heads in their tailored suits, they can't stomach it. They physically cannot bring themselves to admit that a rookie, an outsider who shoots from the logo and doesn't care about their unwritten veteran rules, is the sole reason their broadcast rights just skyrocketed. So, what do? They invent the rookie class narrative. They try to spread the credit like peanut butter over a piece of toast, hoping you won't notice who actually baked the bread. They constantly flash graphics on the screen showing the entire rookie draft class. They force the narrative down our throats. Say, look at all these amazing new players elevating the game. Sure. Fine. There are good players. But nobody is paying $2.2 billion for good. Networks don't empty their bank accounts for a collective effort. They pay for a spectacle. They pay for the girl who has grown men sprinting through the sticky, beer-stained concourses of Gainbridge Fieldhouse an hour before tip-off, just to watch her stretch. Pay for the deafening, ear-splitting roar that vibrates through the concrete floor the second she walks out of the dark tunnel and steps into the light. I see the way the commentators grit their teeth when they have to mention her stats. I hear the subtle, passive-aggressive sighs. They will spend 10 minutes analyzing a basic layup from a veteran. But when Caitlin hits a heavily contested, step-back 30-footer with two defenders draped over her neck, they call it a nice shot and immediately pivot to talking about the opponent's defensive effort. It is a psychological operation. They are trying to dilute her power. They are terrified of the monster they can't control. Because if they admit she is the singular force driving this economy, they admit that their 20 years of marketing the league prior to her was a complete and utter failure. They are protecting their own egos. They would rather lie to millions of viewers than swallow their pride and say two simple words. Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin, for making our network relevant. Thank you for paying for our chartered flights. Thank you for the private jets and the luxury hotels. Instead, they sit behind their microphones, staring at their iPads, and read the teleprompter scripts that corporate handed them. A rising tide lifts all boats. What a joke. She isn't a rising tide. She is a Category 5 hurricane. And she just dragged this entire dormant league kicking and screaming into the Billionaire Boys Club. But the media heist doesn't stop at the TV desks. No. It gets much darker. They are actively trying to manipulate the algorithm. They bury her highlights. They amplify every single mistake she makes. A turnover? It's front page news. A broken record? It's a footnote at the bottom of the screen. This isn't journalism anymore. It is a targeted assassination of her legacy before it even truly begins. You can feel the heavy, oppressive bias dripping from every single article written by these legacy journalists. You can smell the desperation. They are desperately trying to build up a rival, a nemesis. Anyone to distract from the glaring truth. Look at the press conferences. Just study the body language of the reporters in that cramped, sweaty press room. The fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The way they grip their recording devices. Leaning in, waiting. Practically begging for her to slip up. They don't want to document her greatness. They want to document her downfall. They ask loaded questions. Debate her into disrespecting the veterans. Trying to trap her. And when she gracefully dodges the traps. When she gives a perfect, media-trained answer, you can see the disappointment flash across their faces. They pack up their laptops, their heavy black camera bags, and march back to their hotels to write another hit piece about how she's struggling to adjust. Struggling to adjust? She is the one adjusting the entire global sports market. It is maddening. You sit on your couch, staring at the screen, and you can feel your blood pressure rising because the lie is so blatantly obvious. It is right there in the open. Heist in modern sports history. Broadcast live in high definition. They want you to believe everyone is watching everyone. But what happens when we actually follow the money? The truth isn't hiding in a TV studio. The truth is hiding in the ticket stubs. Let's leave the sterile, air-conditioned TV studios for a minute. Let's get out of the media bubbles and walk down to the concrete streets. Let's look at the cold, hard cash. Because spreadsheets do not have feelings. Credit card receipts do not suffer from jealousy. The data is screaming the truth right in their faces. Look at the merchandise stands. Have you actually walked a concourse at a Fever away game lately? It is a mob scene. Fans packed shoulder to shoulder, crushing against the metal barricades. The smell of stale beer and hot pretzels hanging in the heavy air. People throwing $100 bills at exhausted cashiers just to get a piece of fabric with the number 22 stitched on the back. The Indiana Fever merchandise isn't just selling well. It's literally outselling the rest of the entire WNBA. Combined. Every other team, every other veteran, every other supposedly game-changing rookie. Put all their jersey sales in a giant, towering pile. Clark's pile is bigger. Much, much bigger. You won't hear that stat on the Sunday morning sports panels. No. They carefully omit it. Now, let's talk about the secondary ticket market. This is where the media's rising tide lie completely falls apart. This is where the house of cards collapses under the weight of basic economics. Track the ticket prices on StubHub or SeatGeek. Indiana bus pulls into a city. The prices explode. A nosebleed seat in the upper rafters. Cold plastic folding chair that used to cost $15? Suddenly it's going for $300. $400. Families are taking out loans just to get their kids into the building. Energy outside the arena is electric. Vibrating right through the pavement. But what happens when she isn't playing? What happens when two other teams, full of veterans who demand absolute respect, face off on a Tuesday night? Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. Ticket prices instantly plummet. 80% drops. 80%. You can practically buy a courtside ticket for the price of a cold hot dog. Walk past a ticket booth at these non-Fever games. The glass is smudged. The ticket scanner employees are leaning against the metal turnstiles, looking at their phones, bored out of their minds. He is scanning in. The concrete plazas outside the stadiums are dead quiet. Just the cold wind blowing a stray plastic cup across the empty pavement. Have you seen the PR emails these other teams send out? Desperate, pleading marketing emails begging fans to buy a 5-game bundle just to get access to the one single night Caitlin comes to town. They are literally holding her presence hostage to move their own dead inventory. The cameras pan across the lower bowl during those games. Empty red seats staring back like missing teeth. Towns. These are the ghost arenas the media absolutely refuses to show you on national television. They will never show that wide-angle drone shot. Never. They tightly frame the camera angles. Zoom in aggressively on the benches so you don't see the massive, gaping voids in the background. They pump fake crowd noise into the broadcast feed to cover up the echoing squeaks of the shoes. It is a manufactured illusion. And it takes a staggering amount of arrogance to maintain it. Why? Why go through all this trouble to hide the fact that one single player is the entire financial engine of the league? It boils down to pure, toxic jealousy. Think about the psychology of these established media elites. Think about the veteran players who have been grinding in the shadows for a decade. They bled for this league. Played in high school gyms in front of friends and family. Fought for minimum wage contracts. And then, a 22-year-old kid from Iowa walks in. She doesn't ask for permission. She doesn't wait her turn. She just starts pulling up from the logo, draining threes, and suddenly, millionaire executives are throwing open the bank vaults. Makes their brains. The media elites built their entire careers analyzing the purity of the veteran game. Wrote thick, dusty books about the fundamentals. It cannot accept that the masses don't care about their analytical purism. The masses want the show. They want the deep three. They want the swagger. So, the media strikes back the only way they know how. By withholding credit. Gaslighting the public. They invite legendary former players onto their podcasts. You see them sitting in their expensive home studios, adjusting their fancy microphones. They sit there, sipping their bottled water, and deliver thinly veiled insults. She needs to learn the physical game. Reality is coming. It's not just her bringing the viewers. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Take a hard look at the TV ratings when Indiana isn't playing. The numbers plummet right back down to the 2023 basement. The casual fans tune out immediately. They turn the channel back to football, or baseball, or literally anything else. We are not watching the WNBA because we suddenly developed a deep, philosophical appreciation for defensive rotations. We are watching because we want to see Caitlin Clark break another record. Period. That is the brutal, unfiltered reality that the executives are terrified to admit. They are standing on top of a mountain of gold, trying to convince us they mine it themselves. When we all watched her drag the pickaxe up the hill. This isn't a team effort. This is a solo carry. And the media's refusal to acknowledge this isn't just pathetic. It is actually dangerous. They are playing a very, very dangerous game. They are trying to artificially inflate the value of other players to dilute their leverage. They are terrified that if the sponsors see the actual emptiness of those arenas, the $2 billion check might bounce. They want to create a whole constellation of stars so they don't have to rely on the sun. But you cannot artificially manufacture a cultural phenomenon. You can't force the public to open their wallets for a narrative. The fans are not stupid. We see the empty seats, the biased commentary. We see the blatant disrespect. And we are keeping receipts. Every single time an article attributes the $2 billion deal to overall growth, we see it. They are pushing a fragile, fake reality. What happens when the golden goose decides she's had enough? The media's fake narrative isn't just annoying. It is a financial death sentence for the entire league. Look at the executives. Look at the WNBA commissioner's office. Polished mahogany desks. The thick, soundproof glass windows overlooking the glittering city skyline. They think they have won. They are popping corks and drinking expensive champagne over a $2.2 billion deal that spans over a decade. A decade. Let that sink into your brain for a second. They just locked in 11 years of television broadcasting rights based almost entirely on the nuclear hype generated by one single player. A player who is currently sitting on a 4-year rookie contract. 4 years. Do the math. You can practically smell the cold, nervous sweat forming under the stiff collars of those tailored executive suits. They are building a towering $3 billion skyscraper on a foundation of pure, shifting sand. What exactly happens in 2028? Happens when that heavily restricted, underpaid rookie deal expires? They are treating her like an expendable secondary asset while simultaneously relying on her to fund their entire corporate pension plan. They bite the hand that feeds them. Every single day. Sports networks push sponsored articles calling her overrated. They invite bitter, retired panelists who roll their eyes at her deep threes. They actively, purposefully alienate the millions of new fans, us, who just walked through the front door of their dying sport with our wallets wide open. We didn't come here to be lectured by out-of-touch pundits. Didn't buy those $300 tickets to be told we don't understand the nuance of the traditional, slow-paced game. We came for the show. We came for the logo threes. Imagine the absolute, unmitigated chaos if she just decided to walk away. Picture the scene. A hastily arranged press conference in a cramped hotel ballroom in Indianapolis. A dozen black microphones stacked on a cheap wooden podium. Blinding white flash bulbs reflecting off the sponsor logos on the backdrop. She steps up to the mic, directly into the dark camera lenses, and says she is done. She's taking her talents to a new 3-on-3 league. Or she's going overseas to play in Europe for 10 times the money. Or maybe she just wants to take a year off to breathe. What happens to that $2.2 billion television contract then? Read the fine print. Look at the hidden exit clauses. You honestly think Amazon, Disney, and NBC are going to pay top-tier premium dollars to broadcast empty lower bowls and the echoing squeaks of rubber sneakers again? Not a chance in hell. The TV networks would trigger their corporate opt-out so fast it would break the sound barrier. The massive, multinational sponsors? The shoe brands? The beverage companies? They would pack up their giant inflatable sideline displays, down their glossy banners from the arena rafters, disappear into the night like ghosts. The league's valuation wouldn't just drop. It would completely vaporize. Those luxurious chartered flights they fought so hard for? Gone. Back to the cramped middle seats on Delta commercial flights, fighting over overhead bin space. And in primetime marketing? Erased. This is the terrifying, apocalyptic reality the media is desperately trying to hide behind their cheerful rookie class propaganda. They know the truth. They know she holds the nuclear launch codes to their entire fragile economy. So what is their strategy? They try to break her spirit. They try to humble her on national television to maintain their grip on power. Think about the sheer physical toll she takes on the court while the media laughs it off. We see the dark purple bruises. We see the angry red scratch marks running down her arms. We see the way the referees stare blankly at the polished hardwood floor while she gets shoved violently into the first row of metal folding chairs. And the commentators? The supposed experts of the game? They chuckle into their headsets. They call it a welcome to the league moment. It is a sick, twisted joke. They are actively cheering for the physical destruction of their own meal ticket. Look at the locker rooms across the country. It must be absolutely suffocating. The veteran players sitting on their padded locker room benches, tying the laces of their neon sneakers, staring at the floor, pretending they don't see the camera crews lined up 10 deep in the hallway just to get a 5-second shot of Caitlin taping her ankles. They want the massive paychecks. They want the luxury hotels with the high thread count sheets. They just don't want to look in the mirror and admit who actually bought the tickets. But the silence is breaking. The dam is bursting. Because the numbers are bulletproof. You can lie on a trendy sports podcast. You can lie on a Sunday morning panel show. You can lie in a 500-word column for a dying legacy newspaper. But you cannot lie to the box office. The metal turnstiles at the arena gates do not care about your hurt feelings. The digital merchandise registers do not care about veteran seniority or unwritten rules. They only recognize one currency right now. 22. It is time for the WNBA executives to wake up. Time for the mainstream sports media to look in the mirror, swallow their massive, fragile egos, and tell the truth for once in their miserable lives. Stop pointing to the rising tide. Acknowledge the gravitational pull of the moon that actually controls it. The Caitlin Clark effect is not just a piece of the puzzle. It is the entire damn board. And until they show her the absolute respect she has physically, financially, and culturally earned, this entire league is just a fragile house of cards waiting for a strong gust of wind. This is the reality they are terrified you will see. But we see it. And we aren't backing down. If you are tired of the media's lies, if you want the unfiltered truth about what is really happening behind the scenes, you know what to do. That subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment below. Let them know we are watching. Welcome to the Clark fan world, thou. We don't deal in narratives here. We deal in facts. See you in the next one.